so that I can prove my reputation and that you'll believe everything I say afterwards. If this doesn't work, we'll call it a day. No, we won't. Okay, right, so now why 3 things? Well, the first one is a bit of a setup exercise, just to let me gauge where everybody is in the room so that I can then move into the next one. So I invite everybody, just put your one hand up in the air, put one hand up in the air, keep one hand up in the air. So everybody put one hand up in the air. Of course, if you can't do that for any physical reason, then keep your hand down. But everyone else, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. So what we're going to do, in a moment, I'm going to do an exercise, and the idea of the exercise is this. Can I get you to think of something that I intended you to think of? And maybe I should have told you to set up before I got your arms in the air, but keep your arms up in the air anyway. Keep your arms up in the air. Right, so what I invite you to do now is to think of an odd number between 1 and 10, an odd number between 1 and 10. And what I mean by odd, sort of 3 or 5, not a 2 or 4. So think of that number, think of a number. Shout that number out in your head, shout that number out in your head, shout the number out in your head, and keep your hand up if you thought the number 7. Okay, excellent. Okay, put your hands down, put your hands down. Oh, what's going on there? So did I set you up to think of number 7? Right, let's do something different. Let's do something different. Okay, I'm going to put some cards up on the screen, and I'm going to put them up briefly. I'm only going to put them up briefly, and what I want you to do is focus on one card, focus on one card. And I'm going to put it up briefly so you'll only have time to focus on one card. Okay, guys, and focusing on one card, focus on one card, and go. Keep that card in your mind, keep that card in your mind. So keep that card in your mind, and what's going to happen is this. I'm going to take your card away, the card that you're thinking of, I'm going to take it away from the screen, and if your card has disappeared from the screen, I invite everybody to stand up, okay, but only if your card's disappeared. Ready? Stand up if your card's disappeared. Excellent, excellent. Remains, oh, sit down, sit down, sit down. I'm suspecting some of you might be onto me. Right, so, okay then, so let's see if we can do something else. Let's see if we can do something else. This one's a bit more subtle. I'm going to invite you to think of an animal, and I want you to think of a hairy animal. So it could be big, medium or small, but I want you to think of an animal, but not a common animal, so not your everyday dog or cat. So just an animal, maybe an animal, just think of an animal, and put your hand up if you think of a bear. So, okay, so let's, okay, not so much. So we've had a real mixture there. Right, so we had some successes and we had some that wasn't. So what are some lessons there? Let's take them bit by bit, and let's talk about the number thing. Pick a number. So we've got a good percentage of the room that would pick a number. So what was going on there? What is the influence that's going on? What technique am I relying on? Did anybody kind of get that? So put your hand up and we'll rush a mic over to you. Yeah. Oh, we're going to come here and then over to here. So we come here, because I saw the hand here first, and then we'll go over here. Just so you get maximum exercise from.
Well, I was trying to avoid an obvious number, and you said all the other numbers, so I sort of chose 7 because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent, thank you. And then you said the.
Same here. The big difference you got already, you suggested, because you said 3 and 5, like 3 and 5, so guess what? After comes 7, so
yes.
we get snooker.
Yeah. So when we think about influencing somebody, the more you know about human psychology, the easier it is for people to influence them. So for example, if I said to you, think of a number between 1 and 10, a large percentage of people go, well, 5 is halfway, that's too obvious. 3 is too obvious, 8 is too obvious, 7 is not so obvious. So just going on a psychological understanding, if you ask somebody to pick a number between 1 and 10, the majority of people will say 7. So then I hedged my bet. So I pushed you towards thinking 7 by doing this. Think of an odd number. Now most people actually, if I say think of an odd number, I've got rid of all the even numbers, so my chances of being correct have now increased. But most people forget you said an odd number, but respond to the results from that. Then the next thing, because 3 is very common as well, because that's an unusual one, and sometimes people just go halfway because they think, nah, it's halfway. So I wanted to dismiss those, so I said, like 3 or 5. And as soon as you do that, most people won't pick those because I've said them. But I had to hide that a little bit by going, oh, that's a little bit like, but not 2 and 4. So what do you think my percentage has gone up? If we know psychologically you're already going to pick 7 anyway, I have pushed you towards picking 7. So that's where the NLP skills come in. So the more we understand about people, and that's nothing to sneeze at. Bless you. And this is so fascinating, so interesting. People are calling in to find out how we do this. So if you know psychological, somebody's going to do that, could you now sort of push them towards making that decision? Is that influencing? It is. Right, the next one, I think most of you picked up on what was going on there, with the cards. So with the cards, what happened? Anybody who spotted what happened with the cards? So we're going to come here, 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 but we might get the answer straight away. Yes. So if you actually paid attention, all the cards changed. Although there were kings, queens and jacks, they just all changed. So was it guaranteed for yours to disappear? Yes. Now here's the lesson from that. Are there ways that you can trick people into doing what you want to do? There is. I just tricked you, didn't I? That is a trick. And if people find out you've tricked them, are they going to trust you in anything else? No. So when we think about the ethics of influencing somebody, yes, there's some things you can get for short-term gain. You could even just lie. But there are little techniques you can use that will get somebody to say something in the moment. But if they feel tricked, they feel like they've been manipulated, have you lost that trust? Will you be able to do anything else? No. So I think an important lesson from that is when we're thinking about influence, is that we do think about the ethics. We think about just because we've learnt a technique, regardless of what the technique is, people don't want to be manipulated. All right, so the last one, which is a much more subtle one, which we didn't get a huge effect. Who had bear come into their mind and then dismissed it? Anybody had that situation? Oh, okay, so a lot larger number. So around about sort of 35% of the group said, I thought about it, then dismissed it. Now what we learn from that is this. No matter what you do, would all influencing tools work for all people all the time? No. So does that mean we might need to be flexible in what we're doing? And even so, I've still got 35% of the people in the room to respond to that, but again they dismissed it and moved on. So why do you think I said bear? What was I doing that